Commander Jake Morrison stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the docking bay of Nexus Prime. The massive space station stretched out before him like a gleaming city in the void. Strange lights pulsed along the walls in patterns he had never seen before. The air smelled different here, cleaner somehow, with a faint metallic taste that reminded him of lightning behind him. Dr. Lisa Chang adjusted her equipment bag and looked around with wide eyes. She was the best xenobiologist Earth had to offer. But even she seemed nervous about meeting alien species for the first time. Lieutenant Alex Rodriguez brought up the rear, his hand resting casually near his sidearm. He was security for this mission, though everyone hoped they would not need his skills. "Welcome to Nexus Prime, humans." The voice came from above them. Jake looked up to see a creature floating down from an upper level. It was tall and thin, almost like a reed swaying in the wind. Skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer in the station's artificial light. When it landed, Jake realized it stood nearly 8 feet tall but weighed probably less than he did. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic," the being said. Its voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We have been waiting to meet your species for some time." Jake stepped forward and extended his hand in the traditional human greeting. Veltar looked at the outstretched hand with what might have been confusion. After a moment, the alien reached out with one of its long, delicate fingers and barely touched Jake's palm. "Careful," Veltar said quickly, pulling back. "Your species appears to be much more solid than we expected." Dr. Chang frowned. "Solid," at another voice joined the conversation, this one sounding like crystals chiming together. "What my colleague means is that you appear to be very dense." The speaker was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. It looked like a walking sculpture made of living crystal, with faceted surfaces that caught and reflected the station's lights in rainbow patterns. "I am Crystal Singer Ethavera of the Vortani Collective," the being continued. "We have studied the data you transmitted about your species, and we must say we are concerned about your physical well-being in space." Jake exchanged glances with his team. This was not how he had expected first contact to go. Concerned? Why? Altar moved closer but carefully, as if afraid to get too near. "Your bone density is remarkably high. Your muscle mass appears excessive for space travel, and your cardiovascular system seems to be working much harder than necessary." The alien paused. "We worry that your species may have difficulty adapting to space environments." Double quotes, Dr. Chang spoke up. "Actually, humans are quite adaptable. We've been living and working in space for decades now." "Yes," Ethavera chimed, "but always with heavy equipment and support systems. Your spacesuits are much bulkier than those used by other species. Your ships require stronger hull materials. Even your artificial gravity systems are set to levels that would crush most galactic citizens." Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward. "Are you saying we're too heavy?" "Not too heavy," Veltar said quickly, "just ... built for conditions that seem unnecessarily harsh. Your home planet must be a very dangerous place." Jake was starting to feel insulted, but he kept his voice level. "Earth has its challenges, but we've done well there. Oh, we don't doubt your survival instinct," Ethavara said. "But now that you're joining the galactic community, you won't need such extreme physical adaptations. We can help you." "Help us how?" Dr. Chang asked. Veltar gestured toward a nearby corridor. "Come, let us show you the station. But first, we should discuss accommodations for your visit." As they walked through the station, Jake noticed how differently he and his team moved compared to the aliens. Where Veltar seemed to glide across the floor with barely any effort, Jake felt like he was trudging through mud. His footsteps echoed loudly in the corridor, while the aliens moved in near silence. "The station's gravity is set to galactic standard," Ethavara explained. 0.3 of your Earth standard. Most species find this quite comfortable for movement and daily activities. Jake had to agree it was easy to move around, but something felt wrong. Every step wanted to launch him into the air. He had to concentrate, to walk normally instead of bouncing down the hallway like he was on the moon. They passed other aliens as they walked. Creatures that looked like walking trees with silver bark. Beings that seemed to be made of flowing water held together by some kind of energy field. Small, quick creatures with multiple arms that skittered along the walls as easily as the floor. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. Jake heard whispers and languages he couldn't understand, but the tone was clear enough. The aliens were talking about them, and not in a good way. Are they always so heavy-looking? One creature asked Veltar in broken galactic standard. Poor things, another said. They look like they're carrying enormous weights. Dr. Chang's face was getting red with embarrassment or anger. Day couldn't tell which. They arrived at a large chamber filled with strange equipment. This is our medical and assistance center, Veltar announced proudly. We've prepared several items that should help make your stay more comfortable. Ithavara gestured to a rack of metallic suits. These are mobility assistants, exoskeletons. They will help support your excessive body weight and make movement easier for you. And these, Veltar added, pointing to another set of equipment, are respiratory aids. Your species seems to require more oxygen than most, and your hearts work much harder than necessary. These will help regulate your breathing and reduce strain on your cardiovascular system. Jake stared at the equipment. It looked like the kind of gear used to help disabled people move around. You think we need this? You know your species is proud, Ithavara said gently, but there is no shame in accepting help. Many species require assistance when they first leave their home worlds. The Murhai need water suits. The Klaxons need temperature regulators. You need structural support. Dr. Chang stepped closer to examine one of the exoskeletons. This is designed for someone who can barely walk. Exactly, Veltar said, clearly pleased that she understood. We realize your species has evolved under very difficult conditions, but now you can be free of those limitations. Lieutenant Rodriguez crossed his arms. What if we don't want to use this stuff? The two aliens exchanged what might have been worried looks. We would not recommend that, Ithavara said. Extended activity without proper support could cause serious injury to your already strained bodies. Your bones are so dense they might fracture under sudden stress. Your muscles are already working at maximum capacity just to move you around. We've also prepared special quarters for your stay, Veltar added. They have emergency medical systems and soft surfaces in case you fall. The gravity can be adjusted even lower if needed. Jake felt his jaw tighten. They were being treated like invalids. What about other species? Do they need all this equipment too? Most species are much better adapted for space travel, Ithavara explained. The Zephyrions evolved in low-gravity environments, by people developed in asteroid fields, where weight was never an issue. Even the bulkiest species in the Federation are much more efficient than humans. Efficient? Dr. Chang asked. Your bodies waste enormous amounts of energy just existing, Veltar said. Your hearts pumped fluid uphill against gravity. Your bones carry weight that serves no purpose in space. Our muscles fight constant resistance that doesn't exist here. Jake looked around the medical center at all the equipment designed to help them. Every piece of it sent the same message. Humans were weak, broken creatures who needed constant assistance to survive outside their harsh home world. We appreciate your concern, he said finally, but I think we'll be fine without the extra equipment. Both aliens looked genuinely worried. Please reconsider, Ithavara pleaded. We would hate for Earth's first diplomatic mission to end in tragedy because of pride. As they left the medical center, Jake could feel the weight of alien eyes on them. Everywhere they went, creatures stopped to stare at the strange, heavy humans who walked so awkwardly and breathed so hard. He was beginning to understand that humanity had a serious image problem in the galaxy. The question was, what were they going to do about it? The next morning, Veltar arrived at the human quarters with what Jake could only describe as an overly cheerful attitude. The tall Zephyrian seemed to float rather than walk, his movements so light they barely disturbed the air around him. Good morning, human friends, Veltar said, his voice like wind through leaves. Today we will show you the heart of Nexus Prime. The engineering section is where all the station systems are controlled. Dr. Chang looked up from her datapad where she had been reviewing alien biological information. That sounds fascinating. I'd love to see how your artificial gravity systems work. And I'd like to understand your power distribution. Lieutenant Rodriguez added. His military training made him naturally curious about the technical aspects of the station. Ithavara appeared in the doorway, her crystal body reflecting the corridor lights in dancing patterns. We must warn you, the engineering section operates at standard galactic gravity. It may be even more challenging for you to move around there. Jake tried not to show his annoyance. We'll manage. As they walked through the station, Jake noticed more aliens stopping to watch them. A group of small, furry creatures with large eyes whispered among themselves. One of them, barely 3 feet tall, shook its head sadly. Such a shame, it said in squeaky galactic standard. They look so young. To be so burdened. What did it mean by burdened? Dr. Chang asked quietly. Veltar overheard. Your species carries the weight of a harsh world in your very bones. It shows in how you move, how you breathe, how you struggle against the simplest tasks. They entered a transport tube that carried them deeper into the station. Through the, transparent walls, Jake could see the vast internal structure of Nexus Prime. Aliens of dozens of species moved through the corridors with an ease that made him feel clumsy and slow. The engineering section is managed by the Klaxon Collective, Ithavara explained. They are excellent technicians, though they may seem strange to you. They evolved from insect-like creatures and can work in very low-gravity conditions. Ow! Transport tubes stopped, and they stepped out into a vast chamber filled with humming machinery. Creatures that looked like walking stick insects moved between the equipment with quick, precise movements. They had 4 arms each and could apparently climb on any surface. Welcome to the primary engineering section, called out one of the Klaxons. His voice was like clicking and buzzing, translated into words. I am Chief Engineer Clickstar. Please be very careful here. The machinery is delicate. Jake looked around. At the massive generators and power conduits, everything looked incredibly solid and well-built. Delicate? For beings of your mass and strength, yes, Clickstar replied. We have had to reinforce several walkways since we learned you were coming. Your footsteps create vibrations that could damage sensitive equipment. Dr. Chang stepped carefully onto a nearby platform. Even her gentle movement caused a slight vibration that made several Klaxons stop their work and look nervously in her direction. Perhaps we should return to the safer sections, Veltar suggested. This may be too dangerous. For you, we're fine, Jake said, trying to keep the irritation out of his voice. They moved deeper into the engineering section, following Clickstar between rows of tall machines. The Klaxon moved like a spider, sometimes walking on the floor, sometimes climbing up the side of a machine to check a control panel. This is the Artificial Gravity Control Center, Clickstar announced, gesturing to a complex array of panels and displays. It maintains perfect gravity balance throughout the station. Very important for the comfort of all species. Ithavara added, the system can adjust gravity in different sections based on need. The Murhai require very low gravity for their water-based physiology. The Zephyrians need about 0.2 standard, so most species are comfortable between 0.2 and 0.4. What about species that need higher gravity? Lieutenant Rodriguez asked. The aliens exchanged glances. There are no species that naturally require higher gravity, Clickstar said. That would be extremely inefficient for space travel. Why would evolution create such a burden? Before anyone could answer, a loud alarm began sounding throughout the engineering section. Red lights flashed, and automated voices began speaking in multiple languages. Emergency in Section 7, the voice announced. Gravity generator malfunction. All personnel evacuate immediately. Clickstar's forearms moved rapidly over the control panels. The backup generators are not responding. We have a cascade failure in the gravity control system. What does that mean? Dr. Cheng asked. The artificial gravity is failing, Veltar explained, his voice tight with worry. The station will revert to emergency protocols. Which means what, exactly? Jake demanded. Ithavara's crystal body began to vibrate with what might have been fear. Emergency gravity is set to the highest level the station can produce. It is designed to keep the station stable in case of catastrophic damage. The floor beneath them began to vibrate. Jake could feel something changing in the air around them, a subtle shift that made his inner ear tingle. "How high, Lieutenant?" Rodriguez asked. 1.0, Clickstar said, his clicking voice filled with panic. "Earth standard." The change happened suddenly. Jake felt the familiar weight of normal gravity settle over him like a comfortable blanket. For the first time since arriving at the station, he felt normal. The effect on the aliens was immediate and devastating. Veltar, who had been standing gracefully nearby, suddenly collapsed to his knees. His 8-foot frame, so elegant and low, gravity now seemed too tall and fragile to support itself. He gasped for air, his chest rising and falling rapidly. "Cannot, breathe, double quotes," he wheezed. Ithavara fared even worse. Her crystal body, which had seemed so solid, began to crack under its own weight. Stress fractures appeared along her major joints. As she crashed to the floor with a sound like breaking glass, Clickstar, the other insect-like creatures, simply flattened against the floor, their legs unable to support them. They made desperate clicking sounds as they struggled to move. "Help, Clickstar managed to say. "Two, heavy, Jake looked around at the chaos. Aliens who had been moving with grace and confidence moments before were now helpless, crushed by what felt like normal gravity to him. "Need to get them out of here," Dr. Chang said, already moving toward Veltar. "Wait," Lieutenant Rodriguez said. "We need to be careful. If this is crushing them, we could hurt them worse by moving them wrong." Jake knelt next to Veltar, whose breathing was becoming more labored. The alien's pale blue skin was turning darker, almost purple. "Can you hear me, Veltars?" Eyes found Jake's face. "How, Are you, standing?" "This is normal for us," Jake explained. "We live in this gravity every day." The Zephyrian's eyes widened with something that might have been understanding. "Your world, 1.0? "Yes," Dr. Chang said as she carefully examined Ithavara's cracked crystal structure. "This is what we call normal gravity." Round them, other aliens caught in the gravity field were in various states of distress. Some had collapsed completely, others were struggling to breathe. A few of the smaller species appeared to be unconscious. "We need to get them to the low-gravity sections," Jake said. "Can you show us the way?" Clickstar managed to point one, shaking. "Arm toward a corridor. That way, emergency, transport, Jake looked at his team. They were the only ones still standing normally, the only ones who could help. "Lisa, check the injured. Alex, see if you can find a way to contact the rest of the station. I'll start moving the worst cases." Jake carefully lifted Veltar, surprised by how light the alien felt even in normal gravity. The 8-foot-tall being weighed less than a human child. "Careful," Veltar whispered. "Your strength." "I'll be gentle," Jake promised, as he carried the alien toward the emergency transport. Jake began to understand something important. The aliens hadn't been treating humans as fragile out of cruelty or condescension. They had been treating humans the way they would want to be treated if they were trapped on a world with crushing gravity. The problem was, humans weren't trapped by Earth's gravity. They were forged by it. Dr. Chang was helping Ithavara when more alarms began sounding. "The gravity field is expanding," she called out. "It's affecting other sections of the station." Jake realized that this emergency was about to teach the entire Galactic Federation something new about humans, something that would change everything. As he carried Veltar to safety, moving easily through gravity that was crushing every other being around him, Jake couldn't help but think that maybe humanity's reputation was about to get a major upgrade. 3 days after the gravity incident, the entire atmosphere on Nexus Prime had changed. Jake Morrison noticed it in the way aliens looked at him and his team as they walked through the corridors. Where before there had been pity and concern, now there was something else entirely. Respect, and maybe a little fear. The emergency had been contained. Quickly, once the human team managed to evacuate the affected aliens to low-gravity safety zones. But word of what happened had spread throughout the station faster than Jake thought possible. Suddenly, every species on Nexus Prime knew that humans lived and worked normally in gravity that would crush most galactic citizens. "Commander Morrison," a voice called from behind him. Jake turned to see Ambassador Veltar approaching, but the alien was moving very differently now. Instead of the casual flowing movements from before, Veltar moved with careful, measured steps. His large eyes watched Jake with what could only be described as awe. Ambassador Jake replied politely, "How are you feeling?" "It's much better, thanks to your help," Veltar said. "I wanted to thank you personally for carrying me to safety. I've never experienced anything like that before." Dr. Chang joined them, carrying a datapad filled with information she had been gathering about alien physiology. "I've been studying the medical reports from the incident," she said. "The gravity that nearly killed you is what human children play in every day." Veltar's tall frame seemed to shiver at the thought. "Your children? They live in conditions that would crush adult members of most Federation species? Every human?" "Does," Lieutenant Rodriguez added, as he walked up to the group. "We're born in it. We grow up in it. We work in it our whole lives." "This explains so much," Veltar said quietly. "Your muscle density, your bone structure, your cardiovascular systems. You are not poorly adapted for space travel. You're incredibly over-adapted." Ithavara appeared around a corner, moving slowly and carefully. The crystal bean's body had been repaired, but the stress fractures had left visible lines throughout, her structure like scars. She had requested to speak with the humans as soon as she was able to move around again. "I owe you an apology," Ithavara said, her crystal voice softer than before. "All of us do. We looked at your species and saw weakness where there was actually tremendous strength." Jake felt a little embarrassed by the attention. "We were just helping." "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Ithavara said firmly. "Anyone else would have been as helpless as we were. Only humans could have moved normally in those conditions. Only humans could have rescued us." Word of their conversation spread, and soon a small crowd of aliens had gathered nearby. They kept a respectful distance, but Jake could see them listening to every word. Some were species he recognized from the previous days, others were completely new to him. Dr. Chang noticed the attention as well. "Maybe we should explain some things about human biology," she suggested. "It might help prevent future misunderstandings." Veltar's eyes brightened with interest. "The Federation Science Council has requested a presentation about human physiology. They are very eager to understand how your species developed such remarkable adaptations." 2 hours later, Jake found himself in the largest conference chamber on Nexus Prime. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of alien species, all floating, sitting, or perching, according to their various biologies. At the front of the room, Dr. Chang was setting up a holographic display system that would show detailed information about human anatomy. "Before we begin," Dr. Chang said to the assembled crowd, "I want to make it clear that humans don't consider themselves unusual. To us, our biology is completely normal. It's only when compared to other species that our adaptations seem extreme." She activated the display, and a three-dimensional image of a human skeleton appeared in the air above the crowd. Several aliens gasped or made sounds of surprise. "Human bones are approximately 4 times denser than those of most Federation species," Dr. Chang explained. "This is necessary to prevent fractures under constant gravitational stress. What you might see is excessive thickness we need for basic structural integrity." A small, furry alien near the front raised a paw. "But doesn't this make you very heavy? By galactic standards?" "Yes," Dr. Chang admitted. "But weight is relative to gravity. On Earth, our bodies feel normal to us. In low-gravity environments, like this station, we have to be careful not to accidentally damage things or hurt people." She changed the display to show human musculature. The room fell silent as the aliens studied the dense network of muscle fibers. "Our muscular system is designed to move our heavy skeletons against constant gravitational pull," Dr. Chang continued. "Every step we take on Earth requires overcoming a force that would pin most of you to the ground." Ithavara spoke up from her position near the back of the room. "This is why you seemed clumsy when you first arrived. You were not clumsy at all. You were being careful not to hurt us." Dr. Chang nodded. "In the station's low gravity, we have to consciously control our movements. If we moved naturally, we could accidentally launch ourselves into walls or ceilings. If we used our full strength, we could damage equipment or injure people." "Lieutenant, Rodriguez stood up from his seat in the audience. Can I demonstrate something? Dr. Chang looked curious but nodded. Rodriguez walked to the front of the room and stood next to a sturdy-looking table that was about waist-high for him. This table is designed to support about 500 pounds, he said. That's more than enough for any Federation species, right? Several aliens confirmed this with nods or their species-equivalent gestures. Rodriguez placed his hands on the edge of the table, bent his knees slightly, and jumped. The humans in the room weren't surprised by what happened next, but the aliens were stunned into complete silence. Rodriguez sailed over the table easily, clearing it by several feet, and landed softly on the other side. In the station's low gravity, the jump looked almost superhuman. On Earth, Rodriguez explained as excited chatter broke out among the aliens that would be a normal standing jump. Here, with the lower gravity, I can jump much farther than intended. A creature that looked like a walking tree with silver bark raised several branch-like appendages. How high can you jump in normal gravity? Rodriguez thought for a moment. Most humans can jump about 3 feet straight up without much training. Athletes can jump much higher. 3 feet? The tree creature's voice sounded shocked. Would be like us, jumping 30 feet in our home gravity. Dr. Chang returned to her presentation, showing images of human cardiovascular and respiratory systems. Our hearts and lungs are designed to function under constant gravitational stress. They pump fluid uphill against gravity and maintain oxygen flow throughout our bodies even when we're standing upright. This is why you seem to be breathing so hard when you first arrived, Veltar realized. Your systems are designed for much more demanding conditions. Exactly, Dr. Chang said. In low gravity, our hearts and lungs are working at a fraction of their normal capacity. We're actually much more relaxed here than we would be on Earth. An alien that looked like it was made of flowing water asked a question through a translation device. Are all humans this strong? Jake decided to answer this one. These are just normal human capabilities. We have athletes and soldiers who are much stronger and faster than any of us. We have people who can run for hours without stopping, lift weights that would crush most of the beings in this room, and survive in conditions that would kill other species quickly. The room erupted in excited conversation as aliens discussed this information among themselves. Jake could hear dozens of languages being spoken at once as the news was translated and shared. Ithavera managed to make herself heard over the noise. This changes everything we thought we knew about your species. You are not fragile beings who need protection. You are perhaps the most physically capable species in known space. Dr. Chang smiled at the compliment, but shook her head. We're just adapted to our environment, like every other species. The difference is that our environment happens to be more physically demanding than most. What else can humans do that we don't know about? Asked a small reptilian creature from near the back. Jake looked at his team and then at the crowd of fascinated aliens. Well, he said with a slight grin, we've only been here for a few days. I'm sure there are more surprises ahead. As the crowd began to disperse, Jake noticed that the aliens were no longer looking at humans with pity or concern. Instead, there was respect in their eyes, and something else, curiosity. They wanted to know what other capabilities humans might have that the galaxy hadn't discovered yet. Jake had a feeling that humanity's relationship with the Galactic Federation was about to become much more interesting. The attack came without warning. Jake Morrison was in his quarters, reviewing diplomatic reports, when the station's emergency alarms began blaring. The lights shifted to red, and automated voices started speaking in dozens of languages at once. Personnel, 2 emergency stations. This is not a drill. Unknown ships approaching. Prepare for possible boarding action. Jake grabbed his communicator and contacted his team. Chang Rodriguez, report to the command center immediately. What we trained for. He ran through the corridors toward the station's security center, passing groups of panicked aliens who were struggling to move quickly in what they considered normal gravity. Many were floating or gliding as fast as they could, but to Jake, it looked like they were moving in slow motion. Lieutenant Rodriguez was already at the security center when Jake arrived, studying tactical displays with Chief Security Officer Thixel, a purple-skinned alien with 6 arms. What's the situation? Jake asked. 12 ships of unknown design, Thixel replied, his 6 hands moving rapidly over different control panels. They appeared from hyperspace and ignored all communication attempts. Now they are launching boarding pods. Dr. Chang arrived, slightly out of breath. I was helping evacuate the medical center. Most of the patients there can't move quickly in an emergency. On the main screen, Jake could see the approaching ships. They were dark, angular vessels that looked like they were built for war rather than exploration. Small pod-like craft were streaming from their launch bays toward Nexus Prime. Who are they? Jake asked. Ravager Coalition, Thixel said, with what sounded like fear in his voice. Space pirates. They attack stations and ships throughout this sector. They take what they want and destroy the rest. What kind of defenses does the station have? Rodriguez asked. Thixel S6 Arms gestured helplessly. Nexus Prime is a trade station, not a military base. We have some defensive weapons, but they are designed to stop asteroids and debris, not warships. Our security forces are trained for crowd control and minor disputes, not combat. Jake watched the tactical display as the first boarding pods attached. To the station's outer hull? How many security personnel do you have? 53 across the entire station, Thixel replied. Most are from species that avoid physical confrontation. They are not equipped for this kind of threat. The station shuddered as the pirates began cutting through the hull. Red indicators showed breach points in 3 different sections. Coming in through the docking bays and the outer ring sections, Rodriguez observed, studying the tactical display. Classic boarding pattern. They'll try to control key areas quickly and take hostages. Jake made a decision. Thixel, can you contact the UNS Liberty? Tell them we need immediate military support. Already tried, the alien replied. Your ship is 6 hours away at maximum speed. We do not have 6 hours. The first reports of contact began coming in over the communication system. Security teams from different parts of the station were reporting that they were being overwhelmed by heavily armed pirates. Section 7 is lost, came one report. They have some kind of powered armor. Our stun weapons are not effective. Section 12 requesting immediate backup, came another. We are falling back to the civilian areas. Jake looked at his small team. 3 humans against what sounded like dozens of well-armed pirates. The odds were terrible, but the alternatives were worse. Rodriguez, what weapons do we have? Standard diplomatic security loadout, the lieutenant replied. 3 pulse pistols, 2 flashbang grenades, and whatever we can improvise. That's not much against powered armor, Dr. Chang pointed out. Maybe not, Jake said, but we have advantages they don't know about. Thixel looked confused. What advantages? You were only 3 beings against many. Jake was about to explain when new reports came in over the communications system. The pirates had reached the civilian areas and were herding groups of aliens toward the central plaza. They're taking hostages, Rodriguez said grimly. Standard pirate tactic, Jake replied. Control the civilians, and the security forces won't. Fight back effectively. On the security monitors, they could see the pirates for the first time. They were from various species, but all were equipped with similar dark armor and energy weapons.
How?
Most appeared to be from low-gravity worlds. Moving with the same easy grace that Jake had seen in the station's regular alien inhabitants, they chose this target well, Thixel said sadly. Nexus Prime has valuable trade goods, wealthy visitors, and minimal defenses. For them, this should be an easy conquest, Jake agreed. But they made one mistake. What mistake?
Dr. Chang
asked Jake, pointed to the tactical display. They don't know about humans. The pirates had been expecting to face typical galactic security forces, trained for crowd control and armed with non-lethal weapons. They had planned for aliens who would be careful not to damage the station or hurt civilians. They had not planned. For humans, here's what we're going to do, Jake said. Rodriguez, you take the direct route to the civilian area. Move fast and hit them hard. Don't worry about damaging equipment or making noise. Use every advantage our physiology gives us. About collateral damage? Rodriguez asked. The station can be repaired, Jake replied. The people can't be replaced. Dr. Chang looked worried. What about me? I'm not trained for combat. You're going to help coordinate the evacuation of injured civilians, Jake told her. And you're going to show these pirates what a human can do in protecting others? Thixel was monitoring multiple communication channels at once. The pirates have reached the central plaza. They are demanding that all security forces surrender, or they will start executing hostages. Jake checked his pulse pistol and headed for the door. Not happening. The corridors of Nexus Prime had become a war zone. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as Jake made his way toward the central plaza. He could hear the sounds of fighting echoing from different sections of the station. He reached a junction where he could see into the plaza through a large window. About 30 pirates in dark armor were holding over 100 alien civilians. In the center of the open space, the pirates moved casually, confident in their control of the situation. Jake activated his communicator. Rodriguez, what's your position? Upper level. Looking down at the plaza, came the reply. Count 30. Hostiles, mixed species, all in light armor. They're not expecting resistance. Medical bay. Treating wounded security personnel. Jake, these pirates are serious. They're not hesitating to hurt people. That settled it. Jake had been hoping this could be resolved peacefully, but the pirates had made their choice. Rodriguez. On my signal, we go loud and fast. Don't hold back. Jake stepped into the plaza entrance and raised his voice. Attention, pirates. This is Commander Morrison of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Release the hostages and surrender immediately. The pirates turned toward him, and several began laughing. Their leader, a tall alien with red skin and 4 arms, stepped forward. 1. Little human thinks he can stop us? The pirate leader called out. Surrender now, and we might let you live. Jake looked around the plaza at the dozens of frightened alien civilians. Families with children. Elderly beings who could barely move in the low gravity. Merchants and diplomats who had never seen violence like this. Last chance, Jake said calmly. The pirate leader raised an energy weapon toward one of the hostages. I think not. That's when the pirates learned their first lesson about humans. Jake moved faster than any of them had expected. In the low gravity of the station, he could cover ground like he was flying. He reached the first group of pirates before they could fully react, and his pulse pistol fired with deadly accuracy. At the same time, Rodriguez dropped from the upper level, using the low gravity to control his fall and land directly among another group of pirates. His combat training, designed for Earth's harsh gravity, made him incredibly effective in the easier
environment.
The pirates had expected to face security forces who would be careful and hesitant. Instead, they were fighting humans who moved like lightning and hit like thunder. The battle was over in less than 3 minutes. When the emergency response teams arrived, they found 30 pirates unconscious or restrained, over 100 rescued hostages, and 3 humans who barely seemed winded by the experience. The real surprise came when they checked the station's damage reports. Despite the intensity of the fight, there had been almost no collateral damage. The humans had fought with a precision and control that the pirates clearly hadn't expected, as medical teams treated the few injured civilians. Jake noticed that the aliens were looking at him and his team with a new kind of respect. This wasn't the awe they had shown after learning about human strength. This was something deeper. They had seen humans fight to protect others, and they understood that humanity brought more than just physical capability to the galaxy. They brought the will to use that capability for the right reasons. 2 weeks after the pirate attack, Jake Morrison stood in the main assembly hall of Nexus Prime, facing the largest gathering of alien representatives he had ever seen. Delegates from over 50 different species had traveled to the station specifically to meet with the human diplomatic team. The atmosphere in the room was completely different from their first arrival. Ambassador Veltar stood at the central podium, his tall frame somehow managing to look dignified despite the low gravity that still made him appear fragile to human eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried across the hall with new authority and respect. Fellow citizens of the Galactic Federation, Veltar began, we are gathered here today to formally apologize to humanity for our misconceptions and to extend an invitation. It should have been offered from the beginning. Jake felt a mixture of satisfaction and embarrassment. The attention was flattering, but part of him wished things could have been simpler from the start. When humans first arrived at Nexus Prime, Veltar continued, we looked at their physiology and saw what we thought was evidence of harsh evolution. We believed they were a species burdened by their biology, struggling against the weight of their own bodies. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Many of them had been present during those first awkward encounters. We're wrong, Veltar said simply. Humans are not burdened by their evolution. They are empowered by it. They do not struggle against their biology. They are perfected by it. Ithavara stepped forward, her crystal body now bearing the permanent stress fracture scars from the gravity incident. When she spoke, her chiming voice carried across the hall. The Federation owes humanity a debt that cannot easily be repaid, she said. Not only did they save many of us during the gravity emergency, but they also protected the civilians of this station when our own security forces could not. Dr. Chang, sitting next to Jake in the front row, leaned over and whispered, I never expected this level of ceremony. Neither did I, Jake replied quietly. But I think they need to do this. For themselves, as much as for us. The ceremony continued with delegates from various species standing to share their own perspectives on humanity. A representative of the tree-like Arboron species spoke about human adaptability. A member of the aquatic Merhai praised human courage under pressure. Each speaker seemed to emphasize a different aspect of human capability that had impressed their species. Finally, Veltar called Jake to the podium. As Jake walked across the stage, he noticed that the aliens no longer watched his movements with pity or concern. Instead, they followed his progress with fascination, as if studying a perfectly adapted predator moving through its natural environment. Commander Morrison Veltar said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Federation, I extend to humanity an invitation to full membership in our alliance. Not as protected observers, but as equal partners with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The hall erupted in what Jake had learned were expressions of approval from dozens of different species. Clicks, chirps, hums, and musical tones filled the air as the delegates showed their support. Jake stepped up to the speaking platform and looked out at the assembled crowd. 2 weeks ago, your people were trying to help us with equipment. We didn't need because you thought we were weak. Today, you're offering us full membership because you've learned we're strong. But I want you to understand something important. The hall fell silent, waiting for his words. Humans didn't get strong to impress anyone, Jake continued. We got strong because our world demanded it. We didn't develop our capabilities to be warriors or protectors. We developed them to survive and thrive on Earth. The fact that these capabilities are useful in space is just a fortunate coincidence. He paused, making sure his words were being translated correctly for all the different species present. But if the Federation wants partners who can help in dangerous situations, who can explore worlds that might be too harsh for other species, who can stand up to threats when others cannot, then yes, humanity is interested in membership. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The delegates erupted in another chorus of approval that lasted for several minutes. After the ceremony, Jake found himself in a smaller meeting room with senior Federation officials. Conversation had shifted from formal diplomacy to practical planning. We have several immediate opportunities for human involvement, explained Coordinator Zixstyle, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish with multiple tentacles. There are 3 worlds in the outer rim that have gravity levels above 0.7. No Federation species has been able to establish permanent colonies there, but they contain valuable resources. Lieutenant Rodriguez leaned forward with interest. What kind of resources? Rare minerals essential for advanced technology, Ithavara replied. Crystals that can only form under high gravity conditions, metals that require extreme pressure to purify naturally. These worlds could revolutionize Federation technology, but they are effectively unreachable for most of our species. Dr. Chang was taking notes on her data pad. What about the atmospheric conditions? Breathable air? Reasonable temperatures? 2 of the 3 worlds have breathable atmospheres, Coordinator Zixtel confirmed. The third would require sealed habitats, but the gravity and pressure levels should be manageable for humans. Jake found the possibilities exciting, but he wanted to make sure everyone understood the limitations. Humans are tough, but we're not invincible. You need proper equipment and support just like anyone else. Of course, Veltar agreed. But our point is that where we see impossible conditions, you see challenging but manageable environments. This could open up entire sectors of space that have been closed to Federation exploration. The conversation continued for hours, covering everything from joint exploration missions to shared research projects. By the end of the meeting, Jake had a clear picture of how humanity's unique capabilities could benefit the galaxy. But the most interesting proposal came from an unexpected source. "There is one other matter," Ethavera said, as the meeting was winding down. "The Federation has been dealing with increased pirate activity in several sectors. The Ravager Coalition's attack on this station was not an isolated incident." "Kind of pirate activity?" Rodriguez asked, with professional interest. "Raids on supply convoys, attacks on isolated colonies, kidnapping of valuable individuals," Coordinator Zixtel explained. "Federation security forces are trained for peacekeeping and law enforcement, not combat against heavily armed criminals." Jake began to see where this was leading. "You think humans might be better suited for dealing with this kind of threat?" "The pirates prey on species they consider weak," Veltar said. "They choose targets based on the assumption that galactic citizens will not fight back effectively. But humans have shown that these assumptions can be very wrong." Dr. Chang looked up from her notes. "Oh, no. Are you asking us to become the Federation's police force?" "Not police," Ithavara corrected. "Partners. Joint task forces with human and alien crew members working together. Humans providing capabilities that other species lack, while aliens provide technology and knowledge that humans need." The idea was intriguing, but Jake wanted to be careful about how humanity was perceived. "We don't want to be seen as the galaxy's hired muscle. Humans are more than just strong fighters." "We understand that completely," Veltar assured him. "This would be a partnership of equals, not an employment arrangement. Humans would have full authority and decision-making power in any joint operations." Over the following days, the details of humanity's new relationship with the Galactic Federation took shape. The first joint human-alien exploration team would be led by Captain Rachel Stone from the UNS Liberty. With her ship being modified to accommodate both human normal gravity and alien crew quarters, Dr. Chang would head a new research exchange program, bringing human scientists to alien worlds while hosting alien researchers on Earth. The goal was to share knowledge and techniques that could benefit all species. Most importantly, Lieutenant Rodriguez would help establish the Federation's first Joint Security Task Force, designed to respond to threats that traditional peacekeeping forces couldn't handle effectively. As Jake prepared to return to Earth to report on these developments, he reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. Humanity had gone from being seen as pitifully fragile to being recognized as uniquely capable. More than that, they had been accepted as partners rather than subjects needing protection. Standing in the observation deck of Nexus Prime, looking out at the stars that now seemed more welcoming than before, Jake realized that humanity's journey into the galaxy was just beginning. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time, humans wouldn't be facing those challenges alone. The galaxy had learned that humans weren't fragile creatures needing protection. They were strong partners ready to help build a better future for all species. And that, Jake thought, was exactly how it should be.